Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sumit. I'm here back with my new video in Salesforce LWC Mastering Tutorial Series. So basically today I am going to take up a new case study in Salesforce LWC, and it's not pure LWC, it's a kind of an integration between LWC or use performing an integration using LWC. And the topic is how do we fetch the postal details using PIN code or the postal PIN code using REST API and display the records on a Lightning Web Component. So in this case study, you will be going to explore a real world implementation of Salesforce Lightning Web Components to fetch and display postal details using a REST API on a Lightning Web Component. In this case study, you will be going to learn how do we make a REST API callouts from Salesforce using Apex. How do we deserialize and display API response in a Lightning Web Component? How do we create dynamic LWC UI to show post office details such as name, district, state, etc. And also it will be a step-by-step breakdown of Apex LWC and API callout integration. And this video will be perfect for the Salesforce developers, admins, and the integration enthusiast who wants to master the art of API integration using LWC and Apex. So before I begin this case study, before I begin this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my YouTube channel for more hands-on on case studies in LWCs, Salesforce tutorials, and in-depth integration guides from AI Tech One channel. So let me quickly show you the requirement here. The business requirement is uh, basically I got a portal here. I have designed a Lightning Web component, and the idea here is I would like to display the details of a postal code details based on an input. So as you can see here, I enter the PIN code. As soon as I enter the PIN code and click on search, it will list out all the post offices available over there. Let's suppose if I say 20220011 and click on search. If this PIN code exists, it will save. If does not exist, it will throw an error message. So there is no such PIN code exists. So 200001, for example, and click search. So you can see so PIN code does not exist in this case. So we don't have the PIN codes in this case. But if I enter a valid PIN code, let's say 208011 and search. So you can see it will basically it will fetch all the PIN codes, all the post offices which will be mapped to this particular PIN code, or all the post offices who will be serving on this PIN code. So as you can see, because I'm from Kanpur, so therefore you can see the PIN code I mentioned here 208011. So you can see there will be 4 post offices which will be operating or which will be offering their services at this PIN code. So this I have designed by using LWC component. So the component, this is the LWC component. And what we are doing here from this LWC component, we will be sending a request to Apex class. And the Apex class will be performing a REST operation and getting a request. Now the API which we are calling right now, that API belongs to a website called postalpincode.in. This is like an open source, and from here, if we want, we have an API document. I will be going to show you the testing of this API doc by using Postman, or we can search. We can search the postal details for a particular state, district, or branch. But just in case, because we are going to hit the API endpoint, we are going to make an API calls. So therefore, I click on API doc, and in this API doc, here are see this here is the URL basically which we are going to make a request. So I'm going to I'm just going to request this endpoint, and in order to test this endpoint by using Postman, and all of you know about Postman, that Postman is a tool which helps us to test the endpoints. So here you can see I just changed the PIN code, and when I click send, so you can see I'm getting the I am able to get the details which will be serving on that PIN code. If I change it back to this one, again it changed here. So you can see this works perfectly fine. So that's how by using, so we will be going, that's how we can fetch the postal details based on the pin code by passing the pin code to this endpoint. So right now we tested this functionality directly by using Postman, but I just wanted to test it. I just want to implement this by using Lightning Web Component. So what we need to do now, so we need to design a Lightning Web Component, and using that Lightning Web Component, we will be making a request to an Apex class. Apex class will perform the Apex class will be going to make a request to this endpoint, and based on the response, based on the response returned by this postal code.in, the response will be in a JSON format. We'll deserialize that JSON, and then whatever the codes, whatever the post office's postal details will be returned, those postal details will revert back to Lightning Web Component, and by using HTML, with the help of HTML and JavaScript, will display all the details. So let's begin this scenario. Let's begin this example. And for this, first of all, let me switch back to Visual Studio Code. So I'm on my Visual Studio Code, and in this Visual Studio Code, you can see there's a Apex class named as LWC Apex class, and in this Apex class, I will be going to create a function. So I'm just going to add a function. Let's say aura enabled, public static, and the response which we'll be expecting from this function will be in the form of, because we would like to we would like to we would like to respond the postal details. Okay, we need to respond the postal details in the form of a list. So the response will be in the form of list string, and we'll be doing a mapping because we need to define the postal code area and the details about it. So the map string comma object, and the method name, I'll just write get postal details. That's a function name, and in this function we are passing a parameter, and the parameter is, I will be passing string postal code. I will be passing postal code as a parameter. Postal code as a parameter. Now we'll be going to start setting up the endpoint. So I write here string endpoint is equals to, so the endpoint which we are going to set here, let's copy paste the endpoint from the URL. So the endpoint which we are going to hit, which I'm going to hit here, this will be the endpoint I'm going to hit. So I'll copy this endpoint and paste this endpoint over here. I'll give this endpoint, and obviously this will not be the so this and postal code we need to pass. So I just write here postal code. Now, the best thing about Visual Studio, because recently I have embedded the agent force, and with the help of the agent force, I'm getting the help. So as you can see, I will be getting the help here. So just in case, if you also need to do this, you can activate the agent force. And how do we do this? For this, I will be going to prepare an individual video, a separate video, that how do we embed or enable the agent force on your Visual Studio Code, which will help you to perform such operations. So for that, keep watching to my channel. Okay, subscribe to my channel so that you will get an update once I upload a video about agent force in Visual Studio Code. So I set my endpoint here, and I'm going to start with HTTP is equals to new HTTP, new HTTP. I just want to check the endpoint also. So system dot debug and endpoint plus endpoint. So I just want to see the endpoint, and HTTP is equals to new HTTP. Then I'm going to make a request, HTTP request REQ is equals to new HTTP request. Then REQ dot set endpoint, the endpoint which we have set here, that's the endpoint. I'm going to set endpoint. We need to set the methods. So REQ dot set method. REQ dot set method. and I'll just press tab and I got this. So req.set endpoint, req.set method get. Then the method is get, and now I just make a response. So in order to make a response, I just declare a variable called res is equals to http.send req. I display a message. I display a message here. So req dot system dot debug, and I just want to check the response body. So I just write here response body plus res dot get body. So I just this will help us to fetch. This will help us to check what exactly the response we will be getting. So if we run this, we'll be able to get this. Now what we need to do, we need to deserialize the response as a list of map. So now the next is we need to deserialize. Okay, we need to deserialize. Deserialize the response body. So deserialize the response body as a list of maps. So how do we do this? Let me remove this one and I'm going to define it like this. I say list of object response list is equals to list of object JSON dot deserialize untype res dot get body. Res dot get body. So here what we are doing will be deserializing this. Now the next is we need to get the first record from the list if available. So we need to get the first record from the list if available. So therefore I'll just write that if not response list dot is empty. If it is not empty, then we won't like to proceed, and we are going to do a mapping. So map string comma object string comma object. So what are we doing here? We will be basically we have deserialized it, and once we deserialize this get body, the response we store into response list. And now from this response list, we need to fetch all. So basically, we need to fetch the responses, and we need to get the post office details. So I just write here map string comma response map string comma object, and I write here response map is equals to map string comma object and response list of 0. So it will fetch the first record if the list is not empty. And we can display the response map if it is required. So that depends as on requirement. Now we need to fetch the list of object. And we'll be declaring a variable in order to declare the post office raw list. So post office raw list is equals to list of object response map dot get post office, and then I can display post office raw list here. So response map dot get. Now what exactly this post office is, what do you mean by post office here? As you can see, whenever we request this URL, so here we have the list of post offices. As you can see, the response we get, so once we have the valid response based on the pin code, we will be getting the post offices. And if I'll show you same on if I'll show the same over here, you can see we have a list of post offices because it's a collection of post offices. If multiple post offices will be serving on that particular pin code. So here we have the post office, as you can see. So I'm just fetching the detail of this post office and store the list post offices into post office raw list. So post office raw list, and we display this. Now what we need to do, we need to create a list of map. So therefore I create a list of map which store string comma object. So it's like a list. We'll be creating a list of map, and I label this as post office list. Post office list is equal to new list map string comma object. Okay, so what I did here, I just list map string comma object. And what we are doing, we'll be creating a list of map and cast each item in the list. So that's what we are going to do here. We just define list map string comma object. Post office list is equal to new list of map string comma object. And now what we wanted to do, we need to cast each item in the list. So therefore, I'm just using a for loop. So for object obj colon post office raw list, and we'll be going to post office raw list, and then in the post office raw list, and then what we need to do, we need to map it. So post office raw list, I'm going to do a map here. So map of string comma object, map of string, we'll be doing a map here, string comma object, and post office map is equals to map string comma object. Oh, so we are mapping here, and then we add it into the post office list. So basically, this is the post office list which we added here, which we created here, and this post office list is in the form of a list with mapping with the string and object. And as you can see, this is our response. This will be the response also. So whenever we call this function from the from Lightning Web Component, it will respond back in this format, right? So this I declared here. And also we need to check if, and yes, one more bracket I need to add. I need to add one more bracket. Don't forget to do that. Otherwise, it will throw error. Yeah, that's fine. So post office list, and this is all we are doing inside the if statement. And now what I can do, system post office list, and I'm going to write return post office list. So we'll be returning post office list. This is if condition, like if the list is not empty, and if we have the records in the list, so we'll be returning it. But just in case, if we do not have any record, like for example, based on the pin code, if it did not return anything, then what happened? Then we need to respond. So I'm going to, I just say else, and I just write here system dot debug, no response data found, and I will be going to return a empty list. So return new list of map comma string comma object. So I'm going to return an empty list here. This is the Apex class. Now what we can do, we can test this Apex class, or else what I'm going to do now, I will be going to create a Lightning Web component in order to test it. So let's create a new Lightning Web component. But first of all, let me deploy this class onto our Salesforce org. So I'm going to deploy this LWC Apex class, and there's an error here. So let's see the issue. What's the problem? Let me solve the problem here. The problem, it says variable does not exist res at 11. Okay, that's fine. So at line number 11, req is equals to set, and this should be req actually, not res. So req dot set endpoint. That's fine. And again, I'm going to deploy this. Let me deploy this req dot set endpoint, and it's done successfully. So now you can see this Apex class deployed successfully. Now what I will be going to do, I will be going to create a Lightning Web component. So I will be going to add a new component, although the one component I have already added, which I demonstrated to you, that the get post office LWC, but I'm going to create a new one. So right click LWC, create Lightning Web component, and I label this as get postal details LWC. That's the name of my component. The very first thing is I'm going to set the target. So I set is export set it to true. I set the targets, and here I'm going to set my target. So I set the target as Lightning app page and target as Lightning home page. And we can do one more thing. I can set the target for utility bars also. We can set this component on different locations, on various locations, and let me deploy this component first. Now, the very first step I will be going to do here is we'll be going to design the component. So HTML part, or else I'll start with the JavaScript first. So in JavaScript, first of all, we have to import the function. So what's the function name? The function name is get postal detail. So get postal detail from @ Salesforce /Apex/ The class name is LWC Apex. The class name is LWC Apex dot. The function name is get postal details. Now I need to declare few of the properties, and the decorator I'm using, the track decorator. The properties which I'm going to declare here, that is at the rate track pin code, at the rate track post offices is, so this is the list where we are going to store all the list of our post offices. Okay, so here we'll be going to display, here we'll be going to store the list of all our post offices, and then we'll display the list on HTML. At the rate track is loading is equals to false. At the rate track error, just in case if any error occur. So I'll just leave it. I just leave this blank. Now I'll just switch to HTML, and in HTML we will be going to design our component. So I'll design my component. I just write here card, lightning card, and I set the title as Postal Details LWC. I'll just add a division, and here, okay, also I'll just set the icon also. So icon name is equals to utility, utility colon location. Now we need to create an input for the pin code. So division class is equals to SLDSM around medium. And I'll just add a lightning input, and I label this as enter pin code. Value will be pin code, and change on change handle input change. And this handle input change I'm going to declare in JavaScript handle input change event. And this is the this pin code basically took automatically based on our based on the property in JavaScript. This pin code is, this pin code will be mapped here automatically. So here I just write this dot pin code, this dot pin code is equals to event dot target dot value, event dot target dot value. So whenever we add a value, right? Whenever we add a value, whenever we insert a value into that input box, that will track into this pin code. And yes, there is one more thing I just want to mention in the HTML: on change, handle change, and lightning input, handle change. And I just add a placeholder, and in the placeholder I mention enter 6-digit pin code just to make sure. Then I need to add a button. So lightning button, and this is the lightning button, so that when user click on a button, it will fetch the details. So for lightning button, I set label as search, variant is equals to brand, class is equals to SLDS M top underscore small, and on click is equals to handle search. And this handle search I will be going to declare in my JavaScript. Here is the handle search. So that's the handle search. That's the button. So let's save this much. I'll just save all. Actually, I just save all this one, and JavaScript also I save everything. So this is this and Apex class. And now what I'm going to do, let me deploy this component, and we'll place this component on our page. So I'll just quickly switch back to my Salesforce org. I'm going to edit this page, and I will place a component just above this, the existing one, which you can see on your screen right now. And the component which we created just now, that is called get postal detail LWC. So the component name is get postal detail LWC. I drag and drop it. And this is how the postal detail I'm getting out. This exactly looks like same what we saw here, what we defined, right? Now the thing is, when user enter a pin code, let's suppose I enter a pin code as 208011 and I click on search. Now it's time to perform the actual operation, so that when we click on search, the operation takes place and it will search the records. It will call the Apex class function and search the record. So when we click on handle search, so in handle search, we need to fetch the data. So in handle search, I just write that if not this dot pin code or this dot pin code dot length not equal 6. So we are just validating if it is not equals to 6. Then I just want to show an error. This dot error, please enter a valid, please enter a valid 6-digit pin code and 6-digit pin code, and we are going to return. So I'll just write here return. So if an error occur, it will return. So this dot error is equals to this. So I'll just validate this. Otherwise, if it is not, so then we write this dot is loading is equals to true. We said the loading is equal to true. This dot error is equals to empty. There will be no error if we found it. This dot post offices is equals to empty list. Now we are going to call the Apex method. We are going to call the Apex method here now. And how do we call the Apex method? So get, what's the function name? So our function name is, if you can see, the function name is get postal detail. So I'm going to call this function here get postal detail. And here we have to pass the parameter. So in this postal detail, the function name, the parameter is postal code. So this postal code I pass, and the value is pin code. So this pin code we pass dot, then result is equals to this dot post office is equals to result, and an error. So this dot catch error is equal to this. Or if you have any confusion, let me remove this one so that make you understand. I just write dot, then dot catch, and here I write result is equals to this, and catch error is equals to. Now in result, once we fetch the result, once we get the response, so I just write that if result dot length greater than 0, that means if we have the list. So if we have the list, then what happened? The post offices. So this dot post offices is equals to result. This dot post offices is equals to result. Else, if it is not, then what happened? This dot error is equals to no post office found for this pin code. Simple message. And for the error handling, I just write here this dot error is equals to error fetching post offices. Error fetching post offices. And this dot error is equals to error fetching post offices. This is not needed. That's fine. And error. Okay, I forget this dot error. So that's not an issue because we are not using this. So that's why this is coming on. If you want to show, we can display the message like error body or something. Otherwise, it's okay, fine. So that's all in the Apex class. That's all in the JavaScript. But when I come back to the postal details, once we click on the button, we need to display the data. So we need to display this. So therefore, the first of all I'm going to do here is I will be going to load the spinner. For example, if it is searching, so then what I'm going to do, I will be going to loading spinner. So loading spinner means this feel like that it's searching, and I write here template. if true is equals to loading, so lightning spinner, alternative text is loading and lightning spinner. So if the is loading is equals to true, as you can see, we have set here is loading is equals to true here. That means if it is fetching the record, then I said it is loading, its loading is equals to true. For the error messages, so this is for the error, and now for the error messages, I'm using if true is equals to error, then I'll display an error message, the error, if an error found. But if there is no error, then I would like to display the post office list. And in order to display the post office list, I use here template if colon true post, if we have the record exist into post offices property. So if we have the values into post offices property, that will be going to display here. So post offices, and yeah, so if we found the post offices, then we need to display the list of all the post offices. So in order to display the post offices, I will be using an unordered list, and in unordered list I set class is equals to SLDS M around medium, and SLDS M around medium. Unordered list class is equal to this template for each post office, template for each post office, and class is equals to PM around small border bottom. That depends if it is needed. And li key office dot name class is equals to, so basically for item into office, and then I will be adding the items one by one. So I just write li key office name class is equals to this bottom, and it's not completed yet. We need to display, okay, the error is because it's mandatory to close the /li. The li was not closed, first of all. And what else, what all other information I would like to display here, I will be using strong office name. I just display the office name. For the paragraph, I display the district and state and the pin code. So like this way, from the list, from item office list, I display the office dot name, office dot district, office dot state, and office dot pin code. And from where are we getting all these information? So as you can see, when we respond, we get the district, division, region, state, country, and if you want to display other information, you can display accordingly as on your demand. So let me save all, and finally, I will be going to deploy this. But first, okay, so but it's not yet completed because the after li I need to end the template also, and you can see all the red lines removed because the template was not closed. So make sure that all the tags will be closed properly, otherwise you will get an error. So once it is done, I'll just save everything, and now it's time to deploy this component and test. So now what I'll do, I will be going to deploy this component and test this component, that whether this component works successfully or not. So now you can see the code is ready and I have deployed this code successfully. So let's go and test now. And in order to test it, what I'm going to do, let me refresh my component. Let me refresh my home screen to test it. And how do we test it? I simply enter the pin code. So I enter my pin code 208011, and when I click search, you can see I'm able to get the office or the post offices related to this pin code. If I change the pin code, it will change. If I say 208012 and search, so you can see it changed. So it keeps on changing. See, there are more post offices which will be the post offices which will be serving at this particular pin code. One very important thing which I have explained in my previous videos also, the integration videos, and the important thing is that whenever we work on an integration part, always we need to set the remote site setting. And in this case, I have also configured a remote site setting. And why do we need to remote site setting? Just to tell that system to Salesforce that we will be going to hit an external URL. And in the remote site setting, here you can see I have set a remote site setting for get pin code. And the setting I set here for the URL which I pass here as this is the URL. So HTTPS API.postal.postalpincode.in. That's the URL I pass. That's the remote site setting. This is important to set. And once we set the remote site setting and test it, we'll be able to get the details. That's how this works. So now, where actually this functionality, where actually basically this LWC component can be used. For example, we want to get a list of all the areas we are going to serve. So we just wanted to fetch the nearest post office, so that we can send if we have to post something, if we have to send the order, if we have to send a parcel, so we can fetch the nearest post office, and then we can send the parcel on that particular location, particular post office. So that's all in this tutorial, in this case study. I hope this will help you this will help you more in understanding about LWC and integration. So thanks for watching, everyone. If you have any questions, any doubts, you can reach out to us on the given numbers, and or you can drop an email to us. Keep watching. Have a nice day, everyone. Goodbye.